We're in a teaching series, as Brandon mentioned, called Everyone Everywhere. What does it look like for us to love other people other than ourselves? What does that really look like? Who is our neighbor? How do we love our neighbor? Last week, John did an incredible job teaching through how to love the church. Because let's be honest, the church can be tough to love sometimes. And he did a fantastic job. This week, we're going to look at, I think, honestly, if I'm being honest with you, one of the most impossible teachings found in the Bible. Like when we get into it, you're going to go, it's not possible. It's impossible. There's no way it can be done. And yet, though, there's a consistency and a clarity throughout the Bible, this one idea that if you and I were to actually do it, it could quite literally not only change your life, but it has so much power, it could change the world if we'd be willing to actually do that. But before we get into that, I want to do something that I'm looking forward to doing all week. I want to play a little game. We don't play enough games when we gather together like this. So I thought maybe you're like, we shouldn't play games at all. I think we should play more games. And we're going to play a little game because this last weekend, I was with a bunch of people I'd never met before. So I was in a room of complete strangers, and I was the only person from Chicago. So I had to represent our city, and I repped it quite well. And people would ask me when they found out I was from Chicago, they're like, oh, you're from Chicago. Oh, are you a Cubs fan? Are you a Sox fan? And then I have to explain I'm married into a Southside family, and so this is why I have to be a Sox fan. I have to explain, oh, are you a deep dish fan? Are you a hot dog fan? I'm like, why can't I be both? Why are you putting me into a box? And so they kept doing these this or that. Are you this or are you that? Are you this or are you that? It's an easy way to get to know someone else. It's a quick way to get to know them. So I thought what would be fun this morning is that we would play a little this or that game. We're going to do it here in this room, okay? And for those of you worshiping online, you're going to type your answers in the comments. That comment section better be popping. So I'm going to put something up on the screen, and it's really simple. All you have to say is the first answer that comes to mind. Is it this, are you this, or are you that? Does that make sense? You don't need to explain, well, when I was a kid, Nope, we don't need to hear it. It's this or that. And as passionately as you can say it to the person next to you, okay? So we're going to see who really believes whether this or that. So I want you to turn to the person next to you right now. Go ahead. Everyone needs to find someone you're playing with. So turn to the next to you, look them in the eyes and say, it's about to go down. It's about to go down. You need to play. It's about to go down. Let's start with the practice round. We're going to do like the easiest, lowest hanging fruit, easiest this or that one. We'll start with an easy one. Summer or winter? Are you a summer person or are you a winter person? Go ahead. Tell them. Summer. It's obvious. Come on. It's obvious. I mean, it's obvious. Even with that blurry picture, it's obvious. It's obvious. Okay. Good. You got it. Awesome. That's how we do it. This or that. That's all you got to do. This or that. Okay, are you ready for the next one? Dogs or cats? Dogs or cats? Dogs or cats? That's the best picture I could find. It's the best picture I could find. I'm just representing nature as it is. I'm just the messenger. I'm not getting involved in this. Okay. All right, good. All right, it's getting a little heated. Okay, let's go Chicago. We'll go back to that question. Are you a deep dish pizza person or a normal people pizza person? Go ahead, answer. I'm a Detroit. I'm New York. Just deep dish or normal pizza person. Which one are you? Stand in your convictions right now. Don't be ashamed. Be who you are. Well, let's stay in Chicago. This is for like real Chicagoans. We're going back a little bit with this one. Are you an 85 Bears person or a 96 Bulls person? Now it gets real. Now it gets real. 85 Bears, 96 Bulls. If you had to pick, which one are you? This or that? This or that? Oh boy, it's off to a great start this morning. Okay. This one's going to really kind of divide the generations up. Are you TikTok or Instagram? Which one are you? Pick one. Can't say both. Pick one. Boomers, I'm sorry we didn't put Facebook up. No Facebook. Sorry, boomers. Sorry, Mom. TikTok, Instagram. Which one are you? Okay. All right. Last one. This is it. Get ready. This is your last one, so get all your energy ready for this one. This one matters. I think this is the question of our day. Are you a Beyonce person or a Taylor Swift person? Go ahead. Beyonce or Taylor? No, don't yell it at me. Talk to each other. Actually, you know what? Shoot. I messed up. That's not the right slide. This is the real slide. That's it. Are you a Beyonce person or Beyonce person? That's the real question. You need to answer. Not saying that I've met her, but I'm not saying that I've met her. Anyway, the point is, lots of us have a lot of different takes. It was about to be a fight over the Taylor Swift Beyonce You hold that close. I appreciate that. Now, why would we play a game like that in a space like this or a time like this? Well, it's not because, to me, the interesting thing is not your answer, because you kind of know what you think. It's not your answer. What's always the most interesting thing is the other person's answer. You want to see what someone else thinks. More specifically, you want to see if they think like you. And it's pretty amazing how quickly your brain can tell you if they are like you or not like you, if they are in or if they are out, if they are one of us or if they are one of them. That was all happening during that game. And despite the infinite complexity of our God-given design, I believe at the end of the day, we're actually really simple people. We're just pretty simple people. We tend to like what we like, and we tend to not like what we don't like. And what I want us to pay more attention to at an even deeper level is that we don't tend to like people that aren't like us. Can we just be honest about that for a minute? We don't tend to like people that aren't like us. We just don't. You were taught to like the people that you like and to not like the people who are not like you. Now, look, I know what some of you might be thinking when I say something that honest, like we don't tend to like the people who aren't like us. Some of you are in this room. Some of you are with us online. You say, no, not me. I'm a Christian. I love everybody. That's what God told me to do. You sure about that? Are you really sure? Are you sure about that? Like, are you sure about that? That you really love everybody, that there's not people in your life right now that you don't like because they don't act like you, they don't think like you, they don't look like you, they don't vote like you? You sure about that? Because all the stats say that we live in an incredibly divided time. And it seems to be only getting worse. And it will only get worse unless or until people like you and me begin to actually live out the counterintuitive way and the countercultural wisdom of Jesus. So as we push even deeper into what it means to love everyone everywhere, I want you to seriously consider this question just for yourself this morning. What would it look like to love the people you don't like? Think about that, because we got to be honest, we all got people we don't like, people or people groups. So what would it look like for you to love the people that you don't like? Now, what I love about our church is we have people all over the faith spectrum. I'm a part of Alpha, and so we got all kinds of different beliefs around the table, all kinds of different beliefs, right? But I just want to talk for a second to the Christians. Those of us who would call ourselves people of Jesus, those of us who would call ourselves churchy people, whatever, for just 1 second, I want to say to those of us who are Christians that when it comes to this idea of loving the people you don't like, there's no wiggle room on this one. This isn't one of those things that's sort of like optional, where you get to go, well, Jesus didn't literally mean this. I mean, it's kind of like if you look back at the context of the day. No, there's no, are you sure about that? Because there is no room. And while we're going to look at one passage this weekend, there are many, many, many passages that clearly and consistently teach this one simple idea that you and I are to love our enemies, to love the people who are not like you. And sadly, when it comes to Christians, we are often our own worst PR because all people know us for is who we're against and who we don't love and who's not in and who doesn't make it. Different people groups. And every time that we judge or we hate or we criticize or we other a person or a people group who aren't like us, that's all we're doing. And look, again, this is just the Christians. So the rest of you who can call yourselves Christians, just sit back, keep checking your email. But for those of you who would call yourselves Christians, there are a lot of mysteries in the Bible. And I love that about it. Ton of mysteries. This isn't one of them. This is not one of them. So we want to get into what it really means to love the people that you don't like. So to do that, grab a Bible and turn to Romans chapter 12. If you have a Bible with you, awesome. If you're with us online, just open up a tab or open up your app, whatever you want to do. You see everyone's kind of reaching forward right now. There should be a tan Soul City Bible right there under your seat. You can go ahead and grab it and turn to page 920. That'll get you to Romans chapter 12. So I would encourage everyone to grab a Bible just so you can read along for yourself. Romans chapter 12, page 920. Now, let me give you some quick context as to where we're at this point in the Bible. The book of Romans is a letter written to a growing church in the capital city of Rome. And Rome was one of the most powerful cities in all the region. And this church had very different values and beliefs than the city, the context that they were in. And so Paul is giving them very profound and practical wisdom about how to love the people that weren't like them and the people that didn't like them and maybe that they didn't even like, okay? So that's Romans Romans 12, let's start with verse 17. Look at this, and I'm going to pause, and I want you to shout words back. That's why it's important to have the text with you. So I'm going to pause, you shout back a word to me. It says, don't repay anyone evil for evil. Be careful to what? Be careful to, say it again, be careful to do what is what? What is right in the eyes of who? Everyone. Be careful to do what is the right thing in the eyes of everyone. We're only 2 sentences in, and it already seems impossible. How the heck are we supposed to do that? Because repaying evil for evil is how it works in this world. That's the only way you win. Like, think about the last argument you had with someone that you care about. My hunch is the reason that it escalated and got bigger and bigger was not because you were looking to love them, but because you were repaying evil for evil. You were saying the most extreme and more hurtful thing. Jean and I have never gotten into an argument, but if we did, I imagine it would go that way. I imagine that's how it would go. And then there's the second part that we just saw a second ago. It says, be careful, and I had you pause, be careful to do what is right in the eyes of everyone. To do right. See, I think this, again, is one of those places where we get it so wrong and get ourselves into so much trouble. Why? Because I think if we were to be really honest, we value being right over doing right. And there's a big difference between being right and doing right. Amen? Big difference between being right and doing right. Again, those of us, I'm not trying to pick on you, but those of us who would call ourselves people of faith, followers of Jesus, you and I are commanded to do right, but we're often committed to being right. We would rather be right than do right. Have the right theology, have the right worldview, have the right position on this cultural issue and that one, have the right way of doing church. We love being right. And I don't know how to say this in the most loving way, so for those of you who are calling yourselves Christians, we're just family talking, we're just talking right here, right now. But if you are more interested in being right than doing right, you're doing it wrong. You're doing it wrong. That's not what we are commanded to do. You and I are commanded to do right, especially with the people that you don't like. Paul goes on to say this in verse 18. He says, if it's possible, as far as it depends on who? As far as it depends on the circumstances, as far as it depends on them, as far as it depends on the moment, as far as it depends on who? You. As far as it depends on you, live at what? Live at peace with who again? Everyone. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace with everyone. The people like you, the people that you like, the people that you agree with, the people who look like you, vote like you, live like you, love like you, yeah, but not just them. Paul says that you and I are actually invited and expected to love everyone. And again, there's no asterisk here. I have looked for it. I've looked for the fine print that lets me out of loving the people that I don't like. And it's not there. If you are a follower of Jesus, it is your job to pursue peace with everyone, everywhere. That means, what does that mean? That means that you pursue peace with your ex. And all that they said and all that they did and how you're still holding on to it. And that was such I'm not belittling any of that stuff. I'm not saying that stuff didn't matter, that didn't happen, it doesn't matter. I'm just saying your invitation is to pursue peace with your ex. What would that look like? Employees, you are to pursue peace with your boss. Bosses, you are to pursue peace with your employees. Students, you are invited to pursue peace with your parents. Students, you are invited to pursue peace with your parents. That's your job. And parents, you're invited to pursue peace with your kids. To create a house, create a culture of peace. You're invited to pursue peace in what you post and how you comment on things online. If it's possible, as far as it depends on you, live at peace. But you might be thinking to yourself, well, what if I fundamentally disagree with how they show up in the world? What if they hurt others by their actions, their choices, their words? What if they've actually hurt me? Am I really expected to pursue peace with someone who's hurt me? Isn't there some kind of stand your ground law in the Old Testament that I can claim on this one? Don't I get to not have to love them because of what they did to me? Great question. Verse 19, Paul goes on to say this, don't take revenge, my dear friends, But leave room for God's wrath, for it's written, it's mine to avenge. God says, I'll take care of that. You don't have to worry about any of that. I'll take care of making sure what's right is right and what needs to be done is done. He goes on to say this. This is where it gets really messed up. Verse 20, Paul goes on to say this. On the contrary, if your enemy is hungry, what are you supposed to do? If they're thirsty, what do you do? Yeah. And in doing this, Paul says, in doing this, this is an old kind of phrase from that culture in that time. You'll hurt like burning coals on their head. What does that mean? That means it's like an illustration for you will win. There's nothing they can say to come back to you when you come at them with love. You win. We win when you choose to love your enemies. Choose to love the people, not only that aren't like you, but the people you don't like. This is how you win. It's not by being right, it's by doing right. It's not by being the loudest, it's by being the most loving. It's not by getting even, it's by going beyond, loving at that level. And I just want you to sit in that idea for a minute. Doesn't that seem impossible? Like by your own strength and your own way of coming at it, have you ever come at this on your own? It seems impossible. Imagine how different our world might be if we applied this principle to our lives. Imagine how different things might be, listen, right now in the Middle East, if that was the attitude that prevailed. Completely change the narrative. Imagine how that might change our politics. All we do is repay evil for evil for evil for evil around here. What if we actually sought to love, to care for, to see, to meet the needs of those we disagree with? What about in the city of Chicago that we all love so much that can seem so divided at times, seem like it's multiple different cities within one city? What would it look like to see others, even people who aren't like me, as an opportunity to extend love? Can you imagine what might even happen in your own life if you actually did this for the people that you don't like? If you actually loved the people that you don't like, how much more free you would feel, how much less hurt and anger you would haul around into every other relationship in your life. Can you imagine what might actually happen if you did this? Paul closes out with verse 21. He says this, I love this, do not be overcome by evil, but overcome evil with good. I love that. Don't be overcome, because that's how it feels sometimes, doesn't it? It feels overwhelming. It feels like there's so much division, it's never going to get better. It's so hard to love this person. Don't be overcome by that. You overcome it with love. You keep playing this game of in and out, us and them, trading evil for evil, you will keep losing, no matter how hard you try. That is a racket and a race to the bottom. But what if you could actually turn the tables? What if you could flip the script? What if you could actually love others, even the ones who seem like maybe they're out to get you? What might happen if you let love lead you, especially to the people that you don't like? Now, I've shared before, and some of you know that about 3 or 4 months ago, I decided to get off all social media. Did a little assessment and realized, I don't think this is good for me. And so that's just me, but I got off of that because what I found to be true for me, again, this is just me, as I would scroll through, I would be doing a couple of things. I'd find myself judging people that I saw that had what I thought I wanted. And so in my case, like people in my industry, like pastors, authors, speakers, I would see them and I would instantly, without knowing them, having never met them, I would begin to judge them. I would judge it. Oh, they're probably like totally fake, or they're probably like hiding some secret in their life. There's no way they could be this successful and have this big of a platform and influence this many people. And I just would judge. So I'm judging them, and then what am I doing? I'm also judging myself because I'm not where they're at. I don't have what they have. I'm not doing what they do. And I know that seems really petty, but pastors, they're just like us. And so I found myself doing that, and I thought, I don't want to run that racket anymore. And so I got off. And maybe I'll go back one day, I don't know. But one of the people that I loved to judge that was in my feed, I chose them. I didn't have to follow them. I chose to follow them. Was a pastor and author and speaker, very, very successful, kind of has a nationwide, even beyond platform. And I don't know, I would hear clips from their sermons and I'd be like, oh my gosh. Yeah, I guess where they're from, you can say that, but I don't believe that. That's not how I would say that. That's not what I believe. Thank God we're right. Thank God I'm right at our church. And I would just judge. Oh my gosh, look at how many books they've sold. How come I haven't sold that many books? They must be terrible. They must have bought their place on the New York Times bestseller. Just judge. I'd never met them. This is a pastor who's trying to do good work in the world, and all I can do is judge them. Well, wouldn't you know, earlier this year, I was at an event with a bunch of pastors and leaders. And guess who was there? Who happened to be in the room? This person that I had never met, but I had instantly made my enemy. I had judged them. I had all kinds of criticisms about them. Having never met them, they're in the room with me. And so I'm like, okay, God, I get it. Can chill out a little bit more. I don't have to be so critical of them. I mean, I'm not going to be their friend, but I'm not going to, be as mean to them. And then halfway through the day, they broke us into small groups of 4 people. 4 people. Huge room. 4 people. Guess who was in my group? And so now I'm sitting face to face with the person that I loved to judge just moments before. And as we talked and got to know each other and shared about our lives, I began to see, oh wait, they're a human. They're loved by God. They are deserving of God's love just as much as me and anyone else. And then we were invited to pray for each other. And that's when it changed for me. As I prayed for him and his family, he shared things that maybe didn't make his social feed, right? But real things that were going on in his family, and I got to pray over those. And then he prayed for me, prayed for my kids. Like, you want to love me, love my kids. And he's praying over them. And I'm sitting there going like, man, how much energy did I waste judging this person that I'd never even met? And here I am, God, you are changing my heart as I'm praying with and praying for them. He never hurt me. He didn't hurt my family. He wasn't intentionally hurting anyone in the world, and yet somehow I had made this person my enemy. And it wasn't until I prayed with him that I actually began to see him, to know him. And here's the crazy thing. Love him. Appreciate him. And again, the most interesting thing about, I believe God orchestrated that just to get me to that point. There's a lot of effort God had to put into that one to get me there. But I could have done all that without ever having been in the room with him. Do you know that? I could have done all of that without ever even having to do this. I could have just chosen in my heart, this is someone created in the image of God. I love them. I choose to love them. Even if I may be triggering up all my own insecurities, no, I'm going to choose to love them. It's not ultimately even about them. It's about me and me opening my heart up more and more and more to the love of God. See, Jesus said it this way. He said, you've heard it said that you should love your neighbors and hate your enemies. Jesus said, no, that's not how we're doing it anymore. What I say is to love your enemies. And what does he say? And to what? To pray for those who actually do hurt you, who persecute you, who harm you, who say negative things about you, who talk about you behind your back. Jesus says, how about you pray for them? Loving the people like you, great, that's easy. You get no points for that. But loving the people who aren't like you, loving the people you don't like, loving your enemies, praying for them, that's where the real transformation is. That's where the real spiritual growth is. And that has the power to not only change you, I believe if you began to do that, we began to do that, it would change the world around us. Do you know, I found 2 things to be true at the same time. Maybe you have too. When it comes to people that I don't like and when it comes to actually choosing to pray for them, 2 truths at the same time. First one, can we just be honest? It's hard to pray for people you hate. Can we just be honest? It's really, because I'm going to give you a homework assignment a little bit where I'm going to ask you to do this. Okay, so I'm just prepping you. It's hard to pray for people you hate, yes? Do you know what's harder? To hate people you pray for. It gets a whole lot harder to hate someone when you're praying for them, when you're praying for their family, when you're praying for their kids, when you're praying for God's blessing over their life. It gets a lot harder to hate them when you start praying for them. And if you're just to stop for a second and think about all the time you've spent thinking about them, that person or that people group, all the time you spent talking about them, and can you imagine all the time you spent just trying to be right and be better than who you imagine that they are? Can you imagine if you took just a fraction of that time to actually pray for them, what might shift in your life? Can we be honest? When's the last time you prayed for Donald Trump? I'm not joking. I'm preaching to myself. When's the last time you prayed for Joe Biden? Prayed for him. Not had your hot take on this, that, and the other. No, prayed for him. When's the last time you prayed for those crazy conservatives that are out doing all this, that? When's the last time you prayed, actually? When's the last time you prayed for those like lunatic liberals that are going to destroy our country? Okay, well, what have you prayed for them? Have you actually prayed for them? When's the last time you actually prayed for your mom, who can be so hard to relate to and it's so hard to be in a relationship with her, and rather than just being angry at her, what would it look like for you to just pray for her? Pray for Israel. Pray for Hamas. It's impossible. Outside of God, it's impossible to do. But with God, it's actually possible. What if one of the greatest ways you could love your enemy, even if you never ever meet them, is to pray for them? Is to pray for them. I saw a powerful picture of this. I don't know if you remember, it's exactly 2 years ago, there were 17 missionaries in Haiti that were kidnapped by a gang, the Mawazo gang. Do you remember that story? It was 17 missionaries kidnapped. Terrible. There's a lot of political turmoil in Haiti, as there often can be. And so in the midst of that, these 17 missionaries were kidnapped. 5 of them were children, were just kids. And while the U.S. and Canadian governments worked hard to secure their safe return, it was the family members of every person who'd been kidnapped that had the most radical response. Because those family members gathered together regularly, not only to pray for their family who'd been kidnapped, but they prayed specifically for their kidnappers. They prayed every day for the kidnappers. Here's what just 2 of them had to say. One of them said this. They said, these kidnappers, like all people, are created in the image of God and can be changed if they turn to him. And while we desire the safe release of our family, we also desire that these kidnappers be transformed by the love of Jesus, the only true source of peace and joy and forgiveness in the world. Another one said, as a family, we are praying forgiveness over these men. We're not holding anything against them. And when 2 excruciatingly long months later, every one of those missionaries was released unharmed, all 17 of them. And I have to wonder if it has anything to do with a group of people halfway across the world praying for those who'd kidnapped them. Who does that? Who prays for their kidnappers? Who prays for people that they have every right to hate? Who prays for their enemies? You know who? Jesus followers, that's who. They may be the only people to do it. People who want to do right more than be right. People who want to break the cycle of evil for evil and overcome that evil with love. That's who. And that's who you are actually meant to be. That is how you love everyone, everywhere, even when they're people that you don't like. So, I told you if you're going to have homework, you're going to be shocked to find out what it is. I want to encourage you this week to really consider if you're willing to do this. If you're really willing to love the people that you don't like, whoever they may be. And to do that, I have 2 questions that you might want to jot down because I think it'll help kind of guide you and steer you into this, or maybe pull your phone out and take a picture of the screen here in a second. 2 questions to help you dive into your homework, and they're simply this. Who don't you like that you can love? Who don't you like that you can love? Be specific about that. You don't need to say their name out loud right now, but just be specific. Who don't you like that you need to love? And then the second question, how do you want to love them? How would you like to love them? What would that look like this week? What if you were actually crazy enough to extend love to them? What if you actually followed this teaching? It's all throughout the Bible. And what if you didn't have to wait till later this week to do it? What if you could do it right now? That's what I want us to do. We're going to close our time by praying for our enemies right now. So I want to ask you to stand up if you would, and we take a posture of prayer around here where we like to open our hands up. We believe that just says something. Our bodies get to tell our hearts what to do, to be open to receive from God whatever we need to receive, and to release to God whatever we need to release. So if you'd be willing, I'd encourage you to open your hands, and if it helps you, it helps me at least, to close your eyes. Close your eyes. And I want you just to begin to consider, or you begin to actually pray for those people that you don't like, whoever they may be. Pray for them specifically. And I want to encourage you right now to pray God's blessing over them. And I know that doesn't make sense. It doesn't justify what they did. You're not agreeing to or co-signing on anything they did. You're just praying God's blessing over their life. Not because of what they did, but because of who they are, made in the image of God. Blessing. Pray peace over them right now. Pray for a softening of their heart. Pray that God would bring people into and around them that would help them know him. Maybe you're even crazy enough to pray forgiveness over them and to finally release them. Be specific. Pray for them. Because Jesus, this is what you invited us to do. This is what you did. You blessed those who were persecuting you even on the cross. And I can't help but be reminded of the fact that, God, we were once your enemies, so ruled by sin, so consumed with ourselves, and yet you love us. And so would you help us do the same? Would you help us love the people that we don't like, that are hard to love? I pray that you'd give us specific ways to pray for them and to extend love to them this week. I pray that you would help us do the impossible with you, because of you. In your name, amen.